What's up and welcome to this video on how to grow a business to six figures with a very little marketing budget. My name's Tim, I'm head ninja at Exposure Ninja. Now, you've probably been sent this video because you've requested a marketing review from us and you've indicated that your marketing budget is extremely small, which is absolutely fine, by the way. We're not here to make that wrong or anything. I've grown Exposure Ninja from absolute scratch with no investment. I totally understand what it's like to grow a business from scratch, which is actually why we're making this video. So we wanted to send you this training before doing a marketing review for you. Now we're doing this for one very, very important reason. Over the years, we've reviewed websites for thousands of businesses, well over I think we're now over 20,000 marketing reviews carried out for businesses of all different shapes and sizes and at all different stages of their growth journey. And one important thing that we've identified for businesses at the very start of their growth journey is actually the things that are holding them back aren't always their marketing. Now, of course, every business gets to a stage where the thing that's holding it back is its marketing and generating interest and generating new business. But actually, we've identified that there are some stumbling blocks or traps that businesses fall in before they even get to the marketing stage. And quite a lot of the time, a business can be in this trap and try and get out of this trap with marketing. They can try and market their way out of a problem which isn't a marketing problem. Now, the downside of this is it can be very expensive and actually extremely dangerous for a business at that size, because if you only have a very small budget, maybe you're working another job while you're growing this business, or you've gone full in with this, but you don't have a huge runway to grow the business from, then trying to spend your way out, essentially, which is what marketing can be if you're in one of these traps, can prove fatal to the business, because you will get to a stage where actually you don't have any more runway and the business doesn't take off. Incidentally, this is one of the main reasons why so few businesses succeed. So we wanted to put this video together for you to help you identify, firstly, whether you're in any of these traps, and then if you are, help you get out. Because actually, businesses that have very small marketing budgets are often best off getting some traction themselves first before looking for professional marketing help. So this business is about this very important growth phase from 0 to 6 figures, particularly if you've got very little marketing budget. We've helped clients go to 8 figures. I'm going to show you some examples, but this isn't what this is about. This is about this extremely important early stages where you can start to get to a place where the business is paying for itself and you're generating ROI, which gives you a bit of escape velocity and allows you to start growing. There's absolutely no financial incentive for me to make this video. As a professional marketer, this is one of the very few videos I've ever made where there's absolutely no reason or there's no kind of game plan behind it at all. I'm making this video because I wish that someone had given me this video when I started my first business, and actually during the early days of Exposure Ninja as well, and I'll take you through that stuff as well. So I wish someone had shared this stuff with me because it would have saved me a whole lot of time and energy. So what are we going to cover today? I'm not going to lie, it's going to be a fairly chunky session. We're going to look through a lot of stuff, which I really hope is going to put you on a course for growth and shortcut some of the pain that can be involved in starting a business and getting it to a stage where it can fund itself and where it can fund its own growth. So a few things that we're going to look through. Firstly, I'm going to take you through how I've built Exposure Ninja. Now, I'm going to do this not because I want to turn this about me. Honestly, I very rarely talk about myself and our own growth journey. The reason I'm sharing it today is because I think there are some lessons which I wish I'd learned them. I wish I'd known them before I started this kind of journey that we've been on. So I'm sharing them because hopefully there's lessons in there for you. And actually, a lot of the stuff that we talk about will become relevant later on when we talk about the traps that businesses at the very early stages can tend to fall into. We're then going to talk about how to scale any business using digital marketing. So we've worked on hundreds, probably thousands of campaigns for businesses in every imaginable market. We've analyzed and dug into tens of thousands of websites, we've noticed some patterns, right? At this point, we'd have to be absolutely stupid not to have noticed some of the commonalities between the businesses that succeed, the businesses that scale, and the businesses that really struggle to generate that growth. So we've distilled all of this into a model which I'm going to share with you. Hopefully it's going to be useful to your growth in future. We're then going to talk through the traps that kill new businesses. Now, I don't want this to be negative. You'll notice negativity isn't really Exposure Ninja style, but at the same time, I wish someone had said, hey, Tim, the reason this isn't working in the very early days is because you've fallen into this trap. Okay. So yeah, I'm just going to tell it how it is. And then I'm going to give you some honest advice on how to avoid those traps as well. Because like I say, I think there's a tendency in the world for people who are selling things to try and sell things all the time, and not to say, hold on, if we wanted to sell digital marketing to very, very small businesses, we could do that all day long because there are so many of them out there. The reason that we don't, for businesses that are in the very, very early phases, unless they have funding available and can pay for the testing period, is that they need to go through a testing period before they're ready to invest in digital marketing. So this is what we're talking about today. And then I'm going to give you some suggestions on when to DIY and when to get help. Okay. And particularly in the very early days, there is going to be a period where you're going to have to DIY, because DIY is always a trade-off between the money available and the time available. Okay. So those are the main things that we're going to go through today. My goal for this today is that you feel energized, excited, and you're aware of the traps that you can fall into during the 0 to 6 figures stage of starting a business. Okay, so firstly, a bit about how I've built Exposure Ninja already, how I kind of started the journey, but the team has built it. But let's talk about kind of my story in particular. So today I'm a best-selling digital marketing author. We've grown to 97, actually over 100 staff in the 6.5 years, now 7 years. And we've got over 100 active clients, typically paying us between 1 and 10,000 a month. We have a 100% fully remote team. We've got books and all this type of stuff as well. So that's today. Things weren't always like this. Okay, there's been a lot of rubbish to get to this stage. Let me show you a particular rubbish phase. Now, this is a photo from, I don't know, probably 2009 or 2008, 2009 potentially. I don't know if you can spot me if you're particularly eagle-eyed. Yeah, that's me. I don't know whose head that is or what I'm doing to it. I'm not too sure at all. This was a photo of me when I was a professional drummer. So I was in a band, and this was our van, a British Leyland DAF 400 series. We drove it around the country, playing to very, very small venues. And these were some of our fans, or actually, in fact, probably more accurately, all of our fans. And we used to drive around playing gigs to people. Now, the band didn't pay anything. In fact, it cost a little bit of money to be in a band. You got to pay for the petrol. The venues don't pay you very much because you're not drawing much of a crowd. We sold a bit of merch, but really not too much. So how I decided to fund my time in the band and the house that we lived in. So we lived in a bungalow in the middle of nowhere on a farm. Absolutely amazing. We all lived together. We had all our instruments set up in the lounge, which became the recording studio. And this was our life. So how I needed to fund this was I decided to become a professional drummer. Now, I didn't want to teach people. It was kind of annoying to me to teach people because they wouldn't really understand things as quickly as I wanted them to get it. I didn't have the greatest patience. And I didn't really want to go out and have to drive around the country to play for different people. So I decided to do something called online session drumming. Now, online session drumming is basically where people would send me their songs on the internet. I'd record my drums over from my studio and I would send them back. And this was great. And I got to play on lots of different songs and for different styles of music, and made some great connections through this. The trouble is, it was a very, very, very new market when I started this. In fact, it was so new that search volumes for the things that I was targeting were almost zero. People just didn't know this was a thing. See, I had been a pioneer in an industry, and I thought, this is great. I've got very little competition here. I'm one of the first people to do this at the grassroots level, which grassroots, by the way, just means no one had heard of who I was. That's marketing speak, by the way, lesson 1. So I was doing this, one of the first people to do it. Now, the challenge was I was in a market where there were very few competitors, but also very few customers. So it was extremely difficult for me to get much business. So most of my time each day was spent contacting people through sites like Gumtree saying, hey, do you need some drum tracks? Hey, do you need some drum tracks? This was extremely hard work. I spent most of my time marketing and a very, very small amount of my time doing the actual business. Okay, now there's nothing wrong with that. That's just how it is for a lot of businesses. But that was my reality. Now, the downside of this is when this picture was taken, I was making about £450 a month. Now, I'm not talking £450 a month profit. I'm talking £450 a month revenue. Okay, so total. Now, imagine trying to live on £450 a month. So if you're in the US, it's maybe, I don't know, $650 or something like that. Or maybe 500 euros, that type of thing. So how did this break down? How on earth did I possibly survive on that? Well, the rent on the farmhouse, there were lots of us living in the farmhouse. We had all our girlfriends with us because we needed them to contribute to the rent. So the rent on the farmhouse was maybe £300 or something. Then I had a bit of money which needed to be spent on bills and things like musical instruments, drumsticks and that type of stuff, new drums. And then, of course, petrol for Vanessa, our van. So really, this didn't leave very much at all. There was no extravagance whatsoever, right? This was really not a great time. And in fact, it got really, really bad at some points. One winter, we had the bright idea because this farmhouse was in the middle of nowhere. We were off mains gas, so we didn't have mains gas. We needed to heat the house. So the bungalow had this oil tank in the garden, or a gas tank, I think it was, in the garden. And then what would happen is every so often the Calor truck would come along and it would fill up our gas tank, and then we get an invoice for £1,200, which we'd split between all of us. Now, if you've got like £100 a month spare to spend on food and clothing, a bill for £100 for some gas is like, that doesn't work. Now, one winter, we decided we had an ingenious solution to this plan. We decided to call all our partners in and have a band meeting in the kitchen. And we said, we've decided this winter, we're not going to heat the place. We're going to save on money. We're not going to heat the place. And we thought we were ever so clever here, until there was snow on the ground outside, no heating. Now, if you've lived in a house with absolutely no heating, you know that is no joke. There's a difference between being a little bit cold and living in a house that has absolutely no heating. It's absolutely no joke. So we would get up, we would put our coats on, we would run to the kitchen, grab some food, and then we would go and sit in our beds and we would make our music from beds. We would write songs and that type of stuff from our beds, because that was the only place that was warm enough. Not because we were lazy, we were extremely not lazy, but because that was the only place that was warm enough. So this was the kind of reality of living in this situation. Now, looking back on this time now, I see all of the holes with this business. But back then, I was just in the moment. I was doing it. I thought the more I work, the better my results are going to be. Now, there's some fundamental flaws there and there's some lessons. It got particularly bad that winter, actually. I remember going around Sainsbury's doing my food shopping, and on the way round, I realised actually I didn't have the money to pay for my food shopping at Christmas. And I didn't have the cash. I didn't have any money on my card. Luckily, I had my Nectar card and I built up some points. So I actually spent my Nectar points on my Christmas food shopping. This was the car I drove at the time. This was a Rover 200. Actually, not this one. This one has 5 doors. Mine had 3. This one also looks like it's got 4 hubcaps. Mine had not 1, but 2. And the other thing about this car that's different to my one is this car has matching bumpers. Now, my car, I'd crashed into a ditch in the ice, and because I couldn't afford to fix it, I had to go to the scrapyard. I knew in Bournemouth where they kept the Rover 200s, in the scrapyard, and near Tower Park. Actually, I think it's in Poole. So you go in, and then right at the back in the left-hand corner, they had Rover 200s. So what I would do when I needed to get my car through an MOT is I would go and get the parts I needed from these scrap cars, because you could get a bumper for £18, which was much cheaper than the 100 and something that they wanted for an official one, and I would fit it myself. Right, this was my life. This was my day-to-day, scraping a living, talk about hand to mouth. This was really on the edge stuff. Then one winter, things went really completely. It was the winter that we didn't have the heating. And I got a phone call on Boxing Day from one of the guys in the band. And he said, Tim, we've got an issue. And I thought, oh dear, this isn't the sort of thing that you need when you're in this sort of situation. He said, we've not had the heating on. We haven't been living there over Christmas because we went home to get fed from our families. And the roof has caved in. A pipe has burst in the tank, roof has caved in. We can't live in the house. The stuff is soaked. We need to move out. This is it. In that moment, we knew that the band was over and I knew that we had to move out. So I'd gone from having band and a girlfriend and being on this journey in our band house and we're going to do this. Immediately, all of that was gone. Had nothing. Moved back home with my parents and just had to kind of rebuild my life, if you like. So I came back and started working on my drumming and decided, I'm really going to take this seriously. The reason that my income's been so low is because I haven't been marketing myself enough. I need to do more. I need to push harder. And I did that. I managed to turn my wheels and keep the thing going. But it didn't escalate at all. And in fact, my life took another random turn when I met this guy. Now, this guy completely changed my life. I know he doesn't necessarily look like a life changer. By the way, I'm the one on the right. He's the one on the left. He's called Ben. Now, you might know about Ben if you've read the book How to Get to the Top of Google. Ben was my next door neighbour, or technically my parents' next door neighbour, as I was homeless. And Ben was a plasterer. Now, I knew Ben was a plasterer because I think my parents had said, the guy next door is a plasterer. But the thing I never understood about Ben was that his van was always parked outside his house. He never left. There was a bit of a strange smell coming over from time to time as well. So I was a little bit like, I wonder what's going on here. Anyway, one day I saw Ben over the garden fence and I said, hey, Ben, how's it going? He was like, oh, yeah, not so good, Tim. I was like, what's going on? How come you've never left your house? The van is always there. You seem to, I thought if you're a plasterer, you had to go outside and do gigs for people in their homes and in their workplaces. He's like, yeah. Well, truth be told, I just don't get any work. I don't get any business. I was like, oh, dude, that sucks. What do you do? What do you do to promote your business? What do you do with your marketing? And he said, I don't do anything. I was like, have you got a website? He said, no, I don't have a website. Now, this was in probably early 2011. So back then, people still had websites in 2011. Yes, the internet wasn't completely widespread as it is today, but people still had websites. So I was like, dude, you don't have a website? This is crazy to me because all of my business had been online. Yes, it hadn't been very successful, but all of my business had been online, the business that I had. So I said, Ben, I reckon I can probably build you a website. Let me have a go at building you a website. He's like, well, I paid some company £1,800. They run off with my money. They're not returning my phone calls. So I just think this internet thing isn't for me. I was like, dude, let me just have a crack. I've built a website for my drumming business. I reckon I could have a go. So he's like, fine, whatever. Knock yourself out, Tim. I don't have any money to pay you. I was like, that's fine. I've never done it before. Wouldn't want to charge you anyway. Let me just have a go with it and see what happens. So that's exactly what I did. I went and set up a basic WordPress site for Ben the Plasterer and listed him on a few directories, set up a really basic Google ad campaign with a free Google ad voucher, and truth be told, completely forgot about it. Now, I managed to turn my wheels with the drumming business enough to the stage where I could move out, and I moved to Bristol. And about 5 months later from building this site, I get a call from Ben. So I'm living in this new place, house share with I think 7 other people. When the guy was showing me around, he showed me and I noticed the door had a lock on. I was like, why does the door have a lock on? When I met my new housemates, I found out. So anyway, I was living in this place and I get a call and it's Ben. So I look at the call like, oh no, it's Ben. Hey Ben, how's it going? And he's like, yeah, Tim, it's that website you built for me. It's amazing. I was like, oh great. Because Ben didn't have a computer. Right, so I was like, great, so you've had a chance to have a look at the website. I'm so glad you like it. He's like, no, I haven't seen the website. I was like, you said it was amazing. What do you mean? He's like, it's the phone. I was like, huh? What? Are you sure you know how this website thing works, mate? He's like, yeah, no, the phone won't stop ringing. I was like, oh, interesting. So I flipped open my laptop, typed in plasterer in Tiverton, and lo and behold, Ben's site was at the top of Google. Now, this floored me, to be honest. Because obviously I'd done this for my drumming business and I'd done this digital marketing stuff before I really knew fully what I was doing. Now I'd done it for someone else and I could see the results that it was having. Now, this is that search today. If you type in plaster in Tiverton, then you'll probably get this search result page. Ben's actually number 2 on Google now. He's been outranked by My Builder, but to be honest, no one's touched this site since 2012. And My Builder probably spends mid 5 figures a month on SEO. So, you know, it's fair that he's been knocked down to number 2. He's also got this featured knowledge panel listing on the right-hand side as well. So I immediately grabbed my camera equipment and I raced down the M5 at about 65 miles an hour, which is what the Rover 200 could do without screaming. And I filmed this. So this screenshot is taken from a video which you can find on YouTube, where Ben talks about the impact that this website has had. Now, I just set the camera up. I was like, right, I've got some questions I want to ask you, Ben. But when I pressed record, off he went. He was a completely different person. He was talking about all the jobs he had, all these jobs in, you know, massive jobs for like Homes Under the Hammer, this huge factory job he's had, all these new homes that he was getting. And it was all from this website. He'd gone from having no work at all to being one of the top plasterers in the town because of this website. Then at the end, he drops an absolute bombshell on me and he says, I'm now in a position where I'm able to consider buying a house and it's all thanks to this website you've built for me. Now I'm like, whoa, this completely floors me. You can see on the video, actually, you can see when that I'm like, dude, that's awesome. And he's like, yeah, it's awesome. And it's all thanks to this website Tim's built me. And in that moment, I knew my drumming career was dead, totally dead, because I'd never had this impact on someone before, and I was completely addicted to that feeling. So that started Exposure Ninja. Exposure Ninja was essentially born in that moment. Went on to build websites for tradesmen, dozens or hundreds of other websites for different trades: electricians, plumbers, plasterers, heating engineers, boiler repair, roofers, scaffolders, because word spreads, right? This then turned into Exposure Ninja, wrote the book about the process that we'd used, which became How to Get to the Top of Google, which did really well on Amazon and started bringing us loads of leads. And yeah, now we're over 100 people and we make more each day than I used to earn in a year, which is absolutely ludicrous. But unfortunately now we don't get to work with too many Bens. We don't get to work with too many trades. We make our clients quite a lot of money. Here's an example of one of our e-commerce clients, this business over in the US. Actually, this is quite out of date now. They're now doing over $3.5 million a month, all through the organic SEO work that we've done for them. Okay, massive, massive result. Now, the impact that this has had on this business owner's life is just as like ludicrous as the impact that that first website had on Ben's life. That's the feeling that I'm completely addicted to. And that's why we've built Exposure Ninja. Suffice to say, no more Nectar card. So that's great. And hooray for the Exposure Ninja story and all of this stuff. There are some really key lessons in there. And what I particularly wanted to do was distill the difference between Exposure Ninja's growth and the first drumming business, and also other businesses that are out there, because we're regularly recruiting digital marketers who have started their own agencies at about the same time that I started Exposure Ninja, but now we're hiring them. Right. So what's the difference between Exposure Ninja and these other businesses that haven't generated the growth? My first drumming business. What's the difference between EN and that? What's the difference between Ben before and Ben after? What's the difference between other businesses that have been going for a few years and haven't seen the growth and the traction that they need? Well, is it the books? No. Is it our lovable mascot, Shinobi? I mean, I think he's great, but it's not Shinobi. Is it me? No. Because I was the consistent with that first business and Exposure Ninja. So it's not me. Shockingly, it's none of these things. The reason that our clients grow, the reason that Ben grew, The reason that any business that we've studied grows is because we're good at 5 things, or they're good at 5 things, right? 5 things and 5 things only. So this is how to scale any business with digital marketing. We're going to look through these 5 things. Now, taking a step back to look at how we've identified these things. Basically, I'm an absolute geek. I like nothing more than digging into analytics to find patterns and secrets, right? So when we do a marketing review for people and they give us access to their Google Analytics, we go and have a look and see, okay, so what have they done to grow? What are the patterns? Where's the opportunity for them? And then we give them those recommendations. So over time, we see loads and loads of this stuff. And I became obsessed with this question: were there any commonalities? Is it possible that the same causes were responsible for the fastest growing digital companies? Like, were they doing the same things? Could we turn this into a replicable system? So we had a look at Exposure Ninja's growth. We had a look at our most successful clients. We studied hundreds of analytics accounts. We actually built an analytics tool so that people would allow us to have access to their analytics accounts so that we could add more info to this. We also researched businesses that are high growth, for example, in the Sunday Times Fast Track 100, and all of this. What we wanted to do is find a system that we could apply to any business which would predict its growth. And we distilled such a system. We called it the STAR marketing system. This details every element of a successful digital marketing campaign. Now, there are 5 elements. I'm not going to teach you in detail all of them because honestly, we've never taught them all in one place. It would be like a 5-week thing. It's absolutely massive. But there are 5 core elements which I'm gonna give you an overview today. Now, I think of these as the 5 legs on a 5-legged table, right? So if you've got a 5-sided table and each corner has a leg, right? That table would have a lot of stability. Okay. Now, just like with the STAR marketing system and the 5 elements here, and with a 5-legged table, you could remove one of those elements and the table would be reasonably stable. There would be areas of weakness, but on the whole, it would be reasonably stable. If you remove 2 legs, well, all of a sudden now that table's pretty unstable. Yes, there are going to be times when it feels like it's stable. If you put something over an area that has 2 legs close together, then it might feel stable, but that table has no stability. Now, if you take away 3 legs on a 5-legged table, that table's on the floor, right? It doesn't balance. It's in a constant state of imbalance. Take away 4 legs and you don't really have a table. It's just a thing and with 1 leg sticking up, right? Nightmare. Very similar with this. So a successful scaled business has each of these 5 elements in place. It's possible to get to some growth with 4 elements or 3 elements, but the more elements you have in place, the more stable the business will be. And once you have 5 elements, you have something which is consistently scaling. It doesn't require a huge amount of kind of manual panic and adjustment. It's stable, it's growing, it's scaling, it's self-funding, it gets bigger on its own. It's a very attractive acquisition target. Now, what we noticed is that a lot of the businesses that were struggling to grow had a real deficit in one particular area. That's the area I'm going to be focusing on today. But let me first just talk you through each of these areas so you have the big picture overview about what it takes to scale any business through digital marketing. So the first area is positioning. Now, the positioning is where your business sits in the market. 5 elements: branding, a reason for existing, a target audience, a clear tone of voice, and a very well-defined and compelling offering. Okay, branding, reason for existing, clear target audience, tone of voice, and a compelling offering. So those are the 5 elements inside positioning. Without those, a business will struggle to grow. Now, you can get some growth, but it will really struggle. By the way, this is the area that my drumming business was most efficient in. Next up is we have presence. This is all about a website that does a good job of selling essentially what's in your positioning. It does a good job of presenting your business and it works hard for you to generate leads. We then have the process. So this is how you turn a website visitor or someone who's come into your world into not just a lead, but then a customer or a client. Okay, so that process, that kind of conversion funnel, really, really important. A lot of low-hanging fruit in there for businesses that have got to a certain size. So they might have got to 6 figures or so, and they're ready to now push on. Often it's the process piece that can really help them leverage there. Then there's people, traffic essentially, getting more eyeballs on the business. People are really important at almost every stage of growing a company. Very, very important in the early days, very important as you grow. In fact, there's not really any point at which driving more visibility on your business isn't a good thing. The only danger is if you're not ready for that traffic, then getting people onto a website typically costs money or time. If you're not ready for that traffic, if the website isn't doing a good job, all of that energy is completely wasted. And that's what can prove fatal to very young businesses. A lot of very young businesses think we just need more visitors on our website. But actually what they could do is spend all of their marketing budget on visitors. They still wouldn't get the results that they want because there are other more critical areas that haven't been resolved, which is what we're going to talk about today. And then once all of those things are in place, we have something called progression, which is all about how you turn a customer into a repeat customer, advocate, and eventually fan. Okay, and that's what kind of keeps the cycle going. That's repeat business, repeat custom. If you look at any large successful company, heavily reliant on repeat business. There's no other way to do it. But you've got to have those other elements in place before you get to that stage. So these are the 5 elements of the marketing star. Now, if you want to see some examples of businesses that we've helped through this process, here's the first one. Like I said, this graph is a little bit old now. They're over $3.5 million a month in revenue. We helped these mostly with traffic, with their process. Positioning was already in place. Progression was already in place. Here's a lead gen business that we worked with. So we took them from 190 leads per month to over 5,300 leads per month, again, by helping them work on these elements in the STAR system, and in particular, fixing their process piece. And of course, driving a ridiculous amount of traffic to that site once the process piece was in place. Here's a software company, SaaS company. We helped them establish a new product category. They've just picked up £3.1 million of funding as a result of proving the concept by driving more traffic and energy and engagement through the site. We've got the owner featured in all sorts of publications, from entrepreneur to specialist publications in their space. So digital marketing has grown that business to a stage where they're able to attract a lot of investment to really take the business to the next level. So the STAR system has proved to be this kind of commonality amongst all of our biggest success stories, our own growth, and also the growth of large businesses like Fast Track 100 type things. So this is the DNA that we've kind of distilled. Now, I want to talk about the trap, because at this point you might be thinking, great, so all I need to do is just crack through, get my website sorted, get my traffic through to the site. I want to talk about the trap first. The graphs I've shown you, those graphs that we've just seen, they are statistically the exception, okay? Not every business that starts turns into an 8-figure company. Actually, in fact, fewer than 1 in 300 do, statistically speaking. So not every business that starts grows into an 8-figure company. And here's the thing, when any business owner or any entrepreneur decides to start a company, they don't believe that their business is going to fail. They believe their business is going to succeed. Otherwise, they wouldn't have the energy and the drive to do what they need to do. If you're like, well, you know, there's pretty good chance that this business is going to be dead in 5 years, you wouldn't start going. You'd be crazy to enter a race that you knew you were probably going to lose. So nobody goes in thinking they're going to fall down a trap. The people that succeed are the ones that are aware of the traps and do things to avoid falling into them. So there are many reasons that businesses fail, but let me share some of the most common that I've noticed amongst the literally thousands of companies that we've seen and consulted with over the last 8 years. Because sometimes for businesses that haven't seen the growth that they want yet, particularly for very early stage businesses that maybe have been struggling to get traction or have been struggling to find the energy, it's actually because they've fallen into the trap, or more importantly, the traps. And you actually might recognize that you're in one of these traps right now, in which case I'm going to help you get out. Okay, so by the way, also, caveat right now, I have absolutely no intention of putting you off growing your business. Right now, you've got energy and excitement. I don't want to dampen that. Keep that energy. It's what's going to help you win. I just wish someone had told me back in the drumming days, I wish someone had told me these traps, basically. And that the route I was on wasn't going to get me to my goals, because I put in a lot of energy climbing up a ladder that was against the wrong wall. Okay, and I don't want that to be for you. I actually believe in you and the business potential infinite, right? I actually probably believe in new businesses even more than their owners do, because I know exactly what can happen with a new business and how it can scale. Your potential is infinite, but we're not here to celebrate potential. Potential is almost inconsequential, because we all have infinite potential. You're here to generate results. Results don't come from potential, they come from potential in use. So that's what we're going to focus on. Now, primary trap. The main reasons that businesses fail at the start of their journey isn't the things that they think, right? It's not because we're not getting enough traffic to our website, or our website isn't really good enough. Yes, those are very important things. It's really, really important that you've got a great website and that you've got traffic at that website. But that stuff is only important once you have this stuff sorted. And this is the building. This is like, there are so many traps in here for brand new businesses. This is why we're sharing this stuff, because if you can identify that you're in one of these traps that comes from the positioning stage, you need to get out of that before you're ready to focus on marketing. So I get it. Target audience stuff is boring. Finding a brand tone of voice is boring. Checking your offering against the market to see if it's compelling. I get it. That stuff's boring. It's great fun to get to the top of Google, to drive loads of traffic, to get loads of leads. I understand that stuff is really fun. That stuff is a complete distraction until you have the other stuff sorted. Trust me, I've made every mistake you can imagine. So that excitement and that energy is the reason why these traps are so common. So first trap, the business concept is not viable. Okay. Start with a real downer, Tim. Okay, there are different versions of viable. So let's look at some key questions to ask to make sure that your business is viable. And by the way, every entrepreneur believes that their business is viable on a surface level. Okay, so I want you to take these questions seriously, because I know that your business is viable, someone else's might not be. So we just want them to have a look and to make sure that everything's good. Okay. Some questions to ask. First question, does anybody else sell this successfully? Okay, so Ben's plastering business. Now, he hadn't done any work on tone of voice. He didn't know really that being a plasterer was viable. But what he did know is that there were loads of other plasterers out there that were successful. Okay, so that business model was proven. It was viable. There are other businesses doing that very successfully. Okay. So we knew that. Now, if you're an affiliate trying to sell get-rich-quick courses, as an example, are there any examples of other businesses doing that successfully? Lots of businesses will be resellers for these, marketers or whatever, and they'll say, right, we're gonna sell loads of this guy's courses or this girl's courses. But actually, no one is doing that successfully. The model they use is the person who's making the courses. But that person who's making the courses, they're getting rich because people are paying to be an affiliate. They're not getting rich from doing the thing that you're trying to do. They're playing a completely different game. So anything get rich quick, usually it's very difficult to find people doing it successfully unless they're at a very different level. They're making money selling to people like you, right? They're selling the scheme. So that's the first thing. Does anybody else sell this successfully and verifiably as well? There is nothing wrong with starting what appears to be a boring business. Now, people, a plumbing company. I'm going to start a plumbing company. Well, people might not get excited about that. That's not like $1 trillion idea, is it? But it is the foundations of a scalable business, because there is an established need for plumbing. Now, this isn't to say that you can't start something completely new and create a totally new idea. Absolutely, you can. Definitely. The world needs pioneers. The world needs innovation. But what you have to recognize is that the risk of taking that approach is extremely high, and you also need a runway which is going to enable you to take long enough to get the traction to sell this concept. Because if you're selling a new idea, you're first selling the idea and then you're selling the business. So you got 2 sales to make. My drumming business, the reason why I really struggled is because I was selling a new concept and then I had to sell myself. If I'd have sold something that people already wanted, like, for example, drumming training courses or drumming lessons online, virtual lessons, established market for that, that would have done better because other people were selling that successfully. So that's the first question to ask to check viability. Just because no one else is selling, it doesn't mean it's necessarily not viable. It means that you're going to have to go through a period where the business likely isn't profitable. So you're going to have a runway, a long enough runway that will get you to escape velocity where you can be making money from that. The second thing, is it a new concept, right? So what I just said, are you having to sell the concept to people and then sell your business, because that is two sales that you've got to make, which is going to reduce the conversion rate of any traffic you drive to your website, and it will also make it more difficult to find that traffic. The reason I had to go out to places like Gumtree to actually do outbound to my target audience is because it was a new concept. People weren't searching for it. Well, if I was selling something that people were searching for, I could have just run ads. I did run ads, but no one was searching for the thing, or very few people were searching for that thing. So if it's a new concept, it's going to take more time. Now, one example of a client that we've worked on in this space is probably in 2015, we started working with an exercise bike company, which had an exercise bike which had interval training built in. Now today, Peloton as a company is massive. This business was essentially Peloton. It was a smart bike. It didn't have the live classes, but it had a kind of coaching thing built in. Brilliant concept. People who tried it loved it. They got it into some great places, and the traction and the feedback looked to be positive. But here's the thing, it was a brand new concept, so people weren't looking for it, which meant that in order to get it into people's minds, we first had to sell them on the concept, then we had to sell them on the bike. 2 sales. First sale, much more difficult to do. Peloton has had to take lots of investment. They've probably spent billions on advertising, or at least tens or hundreds of millions on advertising to get the concept out there. Very, very expensive to get a new concept out there to people's awareness so that you can then sell it. This business didn't have the budget to do that. So what it was essentially doing was playing a game that it couldn't afford to win. Now today the business is still going, but they've got nowhere near the success of Peloton because they didn't have the budget to get that early traction. They didn't have a model for getting new users. So you have to have, if it is a new concept, there has to be some sort of plan in place to get traction early, because for people who aren't aware of it, we've got to sell that first. The next question about business viability is, can you afford to get new customers? This is particularly important for businesses that are selling low-cost products. We had a client a while back who was selling training courses, and the majority of their training courses were through Udemy, right? So they sold the course through Udemy. Now the course was, I think, £10, very, very low cost. And Udemy would take a cut of this. So it worked out that there was maybe £4 or £5 left after all the costs had been, covered and all of that type of thing. Now this business wanted to drive ad traffic and SEO traffic to their courses. The trouble is, if you've only got £4 or £5 profit per sale and there's no repeat business, you can't afford to drive anything to that site. You can't afford to do SEO because you'd have to sell thousands of these courses every month to get an ROI, and you're not going to do that, at least in the early days, and this business didn't have a huge runway. And you're not going to do that through paid ads, because if you're paying 50 pence a click and you're converting 1 in 10, well, you're making a loss on every course that you sell. It doesn't work. So this business couldn't afford to get new customers. The business model was fundamentally not viable. Now, what could they have done? Well, they could have taken the stuff that was in their training course and run, seminars where they get 50 people in a room and charge them all £300 a day for the same information. They could have had an online training portal where they had, monthly webinars and could charge people a recurring monthly subscription fee of £40 or something. Or, well, they could have gone up. They could have gone to £100. And if they'd have had, 50 of those new per month, then that could have been a very good business. But the business model was fundamentally broken in that they couldn't afford to get new customers with the product they have. We also see this a lot with drop shipping businesses. They'll have very low cost products, and because it's drop shipping, they don't have amazing markup. So they might have maybe 30% markup on a £10 product. Well, that's only £3 profit. You can't run that. And if you've got £50 products and you've got a 30% markup, that's, what's that? It's like, oh my gosh, I've had complete brain freeze. So it's going to be £15, right? So £15 profit on £50. Whew, that took way too long. But even that can be very difficult if there's no repeat custom. So there has to be a business model that allows you to invest in new customers. If you're relying on paid traffic, you might be aiming to break even on your first sale. So if you're going to have a successful growing business with a break even on first sale model, you need to have a back end. You need to know that there's repeat custom. You need to know that each of your customers has a good lifetime value. You need to have something where they're going to come back and they're going to want more and more. Otherwise, it can be very difficult to make that business model viable. The second trap to fall into is no clear offering or target audience. So this often happens if a business they've created the business without any kind of research, without any kind of market analysis. They're not going out there to try and solve someone's problem. They've just decided, like they've bought a drop shipping store, or they've just decided to do something, right? Just decided to do something, right? So, and the funk that people get into, let's say that you've started an e-commerce business and you've got a wide range of different products on there. If we say, right, we really need to focus this. I remember reviewing a site that was selling all sorts of electronic stuff. So it was selling like headphones, it was selling drones and kids' toys, it was selling watches, it was selling accessories, even some clothing. And I looked at this and thought, how do you market this? It's a complete mishmash of a whole bunch of stuff. There's no kind of consistent theme to it at all. So we talked to the business owner and we said, right, let's get some clarity on this. Let's get some focus. Let's turn this into, headphones and audio store, or tech kids toys, or tech adult toys, whatever the thing is. Let's put some kind of defining thing about it so that we can actually push it to a specific target audience with a very clear message. And their feedback, of course, was, I don't want to restrict my target audience. And that is the fear that people have. They don't want to restrict their target audience because, we sold one baseball hat 3 months ago. So we don't want to take the baseball hats off because we've sold some. But the trouble is, when someone lands on the site, they're like, what even is this? So there's this kind of balance to be struck between, I don't want to restrict my target audience versus knowing that they need to focus on something. And in particular, the big trap is not having, like I said here, no clear offering or target audience. You need to have both a clear offering, so our business sells X, and then a target audience to Y, right? We need to know who you're selling to. We've actually had a very successful dropshipping client who sold lighting, and that's all they did. They sold outdoor LED lighting. So it's a dropshipping business, but they basically took off all the products that wasn't lighting, and that's what they focused on. So as well as through their own site, they sold through Amazon and other platforms as well. Wayfair, another example of dropshipping business, very, very successful through focusing on furniture only and stuff for the home, but with a very clear, quality threshold. So this isn't just, let's just throw up a whole bunch of stuff on the site and see what happens. They're measuring the quality. They're looking at the products. They're actually getting the products, taking their own photos, making it look like a legitimate, good quality website, which is what you need to do to win. So why would anybody come to your website? They don't know what they're buying if they're coming to a mishmash. Or if you're a service company, what is your target audience exactly? Who are you selling to? And let's make sure it's focused in the early days, because that's going to be the easiest thing to get traction for. Okay, the next trap. No compelling reason for existing. Okay, what's the point of your business? What need do you solve in the marketplace? If you are just another X, it's very difficult to get traction. Okay, why should people buy from you rather than an established competitor? This is a really key question. Why should people buy from you rather than somebody else? Without the answer to this question, it can be very difficult to get traction, because if you imagine, people in the market, customers, have buyers that they buy from. Right? They've got people that they've already bought from. They know that they've got relationships. If you want to insert yourself in that marketplace, you've got to then be taking customers away from their established vendors. So what are you going to do better in order to do that? If you look at any disruptive marketplace, there's a reason that the disruptor is taking away market share from established competitors. There's a clear reason why they're better. Not just because they decided to start a business and they just decided to become a Me Too company and join the fun because there's money to be made. They usually have some kind of reason, okay? The other thing is, who do you want to sell to and how do you know that they need it? This is a really, really important question. Think about the early days of Exposure Ninja. I knew that people needed websites and digital marketing because I'd done one for someone and I had an amazing result. Think about that testimonial, that video, which by the way, I used in all our marketing for the first probably 2 years of the business and still use in the books today, right? And I've just used in this video, right? That case study, that example of the thing that we do working really well has built the entire EN empire. That's no exaggeration, okay? So can you get validation from your audience that what it is that you do works and is valuable to them? Okay, this also has massive implications for photographers and businesses started by people that are really passionate about something. Often they start the business because they're passionate, right? That's my drumming business. I started it because it was passionate, because I was passionate about it. I didn't look out there in the marketplace and see what people needed and decide to offer them something. There was no reason for that business to exist. I started from what I wanted to do rather than from what the market wanted. This is so fundamental. And as a result, I was forever limited in my reach. And it's very similar with a lot of photographers and passion businesses. They start the photography business because they love photography and they're just waiting for someone to pay them to go and take landscape photographs. Now, for a very small number of people, that is a living, but it's not generally the best way to make a business. The best way to make a business is to look at what is the need? What do people really, really need? Corporate photography might not be as sexy and fun, but people need corporate photography. Okay, so it's about whether you go market first or whether you go passion first. And for me, passion first is a real danger here. There's this saying, do what you love and the money will follow. For me, no, it's not only not necessarily, it's very rarely true. We have to remember we're working in a capitalist model here. You want your business to succeed. And in order to succeed in a capitalist model, you get money, you get value from participating in a value exchange. And a value exchange is where you get rewarded for the value you give somebody else. Okay, not for the amount of enjoyment that you get from doing the thing. Okay, your passion isn't part of the value exchange. Yes, you'll do a good job if you're passionate about something, but I can tell you, when I grew up, I wanted to be a professional drummer. I tell you, I'm more passionate about marketing than I ever was about drumming, because I'm good at it and because I can, most importantly, I can get amazing results. We can get amazing results for our clients. And that gives us so much validation and so much pleasure to see businesses growing through the stuff that we do. You'll be exactly the same. You will find passion in the thing that gets you, the thing that you're successful with and that has amazing impact on people's lives. So unless that passion produces something that people are willing to pay for, the passion actually has no bearing on the likelihood of commercial success. And in fact, it can be a distraction because people end up doing more of the stuff that they love at the expense of stuff they get paid for. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't do what you love. Absolutely you should. We only get one life. You should 100% do it, spend it doing what you love. But if your primary goal is to start a business and make that business commercially viable, start by evaluating the marketplace and choosing something likely to generate a business income. Whether or not this is your area of passion, choose something that's going to generate you an income. Actually, talking about photography, I know a guy who's just sold his photography business for a very tasty sum. He will never have to work again. Okay. Now, What did he do? He was very passionate about photography, but his business was not taking photographs. He had a subscription photography training website, which was very, very successful, had a lot of students all paying a monthly subscription fee to be a part of this business, and he's just sold it because it was financially successful. Now, did he get to take lots of photographs? Yes, he did. But guess what? He spent most of his time not taking photographs, but running a business. Okay, and that's what you have to do if you're going to grow a successful business. So I think it's important at this stage to decide whether you want to just follow your passion and see if you can get paid for it, or whether you want to actually start a business. So I hope this isn't too harsh. I just wish someone had told me earlier on, because guess what? I also enjoy drumming way more now that I've got time to do it, and I've got a beautiful drum kit and I can play in a nice house rather than when I'm, freezing, unable to afford the heating. Next thing, let's talk about how do you know that you are ready for marketing? So assuming that we've got these things in place and we've verified that we're not falling down any of these traps, then it's time to start thinking about how you know when you're going to be ready for marketing. So, the reason that we're sharing this is because these things I'm about to show you will rapidly shortcut the speed to return on investment of any marketing work that you do. If you start marketing a business too early, the danger is that you waste a lot of money. Okay, and I'm saying this as someone who sells marketing. Okay, if you invest in marketing before your business is ready, so let's say you've fallen down one of the traps, the business isn't viable, there's no clear reason for existing, you don't have a clear offering or a target audience, that money will be wasted. We've seen companies who have used all of their runway on a concept which isn't viable, and they run out of money, get to the end of the runway. It's like, you got to go back to your day job because you did things in the wrong order. If you've got a small marketing budget, you've got to use that. You've got to guard that with your life, okay? What you don't want to do is say, right, we got 1 month. Let's put it all in. Let's put everything on 35 black, spin the wheel. Let's hope we win. At the end of the month, we're either going to be hooray or we're going to be dead. You don't want to do that. There's a much better way to grow a business which has a much higher success rate than doing that. On the other hand, if you invest in marketing too late, then obviously that's a period of growth which you could have been enjoying, which you're now not getting. So it's about finding this balance. And here are the things that I would suggest you get in place before you start investing in marketing, which will both give you the confidence to invest in marketing and also will speed up the time to ROI. Okay, so the time before you're getting return on investment, the time before marketing will become profitable. Escape velocity, if you like, when the business can then fund itself. So these are those ROI shortcuts. Firstly, pick your target audience and get to know them. I cannot overstate this. People start businesses without any idea of who they're actually going to be selling to. And it's a really, really flawed concept. They think that, right, we're just going to start this. We don't really know who's going to buy it, but, we think it's probably going to be quite good. I would want to buy this, right? I would want to buy this. At least, there's at least one person out there who's going to want this. You have to have a clear understanding of who your target customer is. And really, you have to know some of them so that you can put yourself in their shoes and design an offering that is compelling and exciting and interesting to them. Okay, so after building Ben's website, I built another couple of websites free of charge because I wanted to talk to the tradesmen. I wanted to find out what their needs were. I wanted to ask them, how much would you have paid for this? I wanted to get to know them. Is Ben typical? He doesn't have a computer. Is that typical? Do I need to design an offering for people that don't have computers? Well, it turned out none of them were particularly technical, so I did. Right? What I didn't want to do is say, right, I'm going to set up some Google ads and sell websites to tradesmen because none of them were searching on Google. They didn't have computers. They didn't use the internet on their phone. Would have been pointless. Until I got to know that target audience, I couldn't build a business which scaled. It would have been impossible. So I had to know my audience. And the only way I was going to do that was by talking to them and getting to know them. Also, really important that you specify the pain point that you're solving. Okay, so I knew that my target customers in the early days, they needed more work from the internet, right? They needed their phone to ring. Actually, that's another important point. They didn't say, I need more work for my website. They said, I want my phone to ring because that's the thing that meant something to them. So in my marketing messages, when I was selling websites to tradesmen, I said, get your phone ringing. I didn't say, get a website with SEO, because they're like, SEO, no idea what that is. That sounds like a scam. The last person who talked to me about SEO was with Yell, and they ripped me off. That marketing message would have fallen flat. So I needed to understand my target audience before I could sell to them. So specify their pain point and the problem that you solve. Get some evidence that you are good, right? This is really important, and you're going to be tempted to want to shortcut this. So the evidence that I got that I was good in the early days was this testimonial from Ben. Like I said, we used that to build the whole business, right? With Ben's website, we got some of his clients to give testimonials, because that was the evidence that he was good. Because we weren't going to... But the reason that Ben's phone was ringing wasn't just because there was a website. The reason that Ben's phone was ringing is because there was a website which made people want to call him. So there had to be evidence that he was good. Now, if you're in the very early days of your business, you might not have any evidence that you are good yet. The best way to get evidence that you are good is to find your target audience, get to know them, and do something for free, okay? If you're a service company, do it for free. If you're a product company, give some stuff away to people so you can get a testimonial or case study or some kind of review that says, this is great, okay? Best way to do it. So 3 ways that you can get some evidence: case studies, testimonials, and reviews. Depends what you're going to be selling, but I would get some evidence that you are good before you start doing any marketing. Now, the reason that you're doing this, so there's 2 reasons. Firstly, it's going to give you confidence to invest in your marketing. Actually, 3 reasons. Secondly, you need to have that evidence that you're good before you're really going to convert people to come and do business with you. Because if you're new, why are they going to take a chance on you? They're going to take a chance on you because other people have done that and it's been really good for them. So best way to convert visitors on a website is to look to be really good by having some case studies, testimonials, that type of thing. So people go on the site and say, right, well, this looks great. Safe bet. Let's go for it. Okay. The 3rd reason is this is a bit of an acid test. Are you really good? Are you good? Do you have a viable concept? It's very difficult to get some evidence that you're good if you don't have a viable concept, okay? So this is a bit of a test. If you can get some evidence that you're good, then usually it's a good sign that you're viable. Not always, but usually it's a good sign that you're viable. So get some evidence that you're good. Do whatever you need to do. You might be tempted to skip this because you think, I don't need to bother with that stuff. I know that I'm good. I'll worry about that once I've driven some traffic. The trouble is you can spend a lot of time driving traffic that doesn't convert if you don't have this. You need to do this to get that feedback. Okay. So a few dangerous thoughts that you might have had whilst I was looking through these. So pick your target audience, get to know them, specify their pain point and the problem you solve, and get some evidence that you're good. Please, please, please do these things before you think about marketing. Some dangerous thoughts. This sounds hard. Can't I just pay someone to grow the business for me? People come to Exposure Ninja with I'm going to be honest, they're half-assed ideas. I've kind of built this website. Can you just grow it for me and get me passive income while I go to the beach? Right? And they might not phrase it like that, but that's the question they're asking. If there's any of that in your head, this is not the way to grow a sustainable business, I promise you. You need to get past that. Growing a business is hard in the early days. No, you can't just give it to someone to make the whole thing work for you. That's not how business works. You need to take responsibility and ownership of the business. With outside marketing help, we'll pour gasoline on a fire, okay? But it needs to be a fire. If it's just wood on the ground and we pour gasoline on, you're just going to have wet wood, right? And no more gasoline, okay? So there needs to be something there. And you need to have some ownership of it. The next thing people think is, all right, fine, Tim, you're not going to help me with Exposure Ninja. Fine, I'm just going to go and find some cheap help. Even if I get cheap marketing help, it's going to be better than doing it myself. Well, it might be, but it's probably not going to be. Here's the thing. Cheap help doesn't care. Okay, let me say that again. Cheap help doesn't care. Caring goes for a lot. You care. Cheap help doesn't care. So if say you've got a total marketing budget to launch your company of £500 or $500, and you can find someone who's going to give you $250 of marketing help for 2 months, they're not going to care about you because that's such a small amount of money if they're running a marketing business that they don't have the budget to care for you. Okay, they might make up some stuff about caring, but they're not going to care about you. So you'd be better taking that money And because you care a lot about that money, you'd be better off figuring out and bootstrapping an early set of Google ads or an early Facebook ad or something yourself, or even just going out to your target audience and saying, can I do £500 worth of work for you for free in return for giving me this amazing case study and testimonial, right? You'd be better off doing that stuff yourself because you care, and caring counts for a lot. Just being honest. The next thing, I don't want to spend the time testing my business proposition. I just have a feeling that it will work really well. Okay, here's the thing. You're going to spend time testing your business proposition. You're either going to do this before throwing marketing spend at it or whilst throwing marketing spend at it. Okay, so if you've got funding and you're a startup, you can get started with your digital marketing very quickly. We can help you. We can drive some traffic to the site and we can iterate as we go. Because you've got the funding, you can pay for that testing period to get to a stage where you've got ROI. Okay, whether that testing phase takes 3 months to prove viability or 6 months or 1 month, whatever. As long as you've got the funding to pay for that phase, then that's okay. And professional help can help you accelerate that testing phase. If you don't have the funding available, you're self-funding, you're bootstrapping it, you don't want to just start throwing traffic at a website having not tested the business proposition behind it. That's really dangerous because you're going to be testing, but with money in the game. Why would you do that? Test it first, get some feedback, get some validation that you're really good, then put some money behind it, okay? So these ROI shortcuts, after you've done these things, then I would suggest looking at marketing help. Until you've got these things in place, I would suggest doing the growth of your business primarily leading it yourself. Okay, so going out to individual customers, finding influencers that represent your target audience, finding people in your space, finding people that you know that have this problem, talking in Facebook groups, trying to find people that need the thing that you're offering, talking to your contacts on LinkedIn, doing whatever you can to get some early customers, to get proof of concept. Then once you've got those, then you're ready for some marketing help. And at that stage, request a marketing review. Let us know that you've got budget and we'll obviously be able to help you start scaling things. But until that stage, honestly, focusing on the marketing can be a diversion until you have this stuff in place. So I hope that's clear. I hope it makes total sense. All right, once you're ready, here's how we can work together. Here are the 3 different types of offering that we have at Exposure Ninja. And I'm not trying to sell you these at all at the moment. I'm just explaining and outlining them for you until a business is ready to scale. Investing in marketing isn't the highest ROI thing to do. So these are the 3 offerings. So we've got something called preparing for digital marketing. Now, preparing for digital marketing is for businesses that have this stuff in place. So they've got some kind of proof that what they do is good. It's a consultancy offering with training as well. So it's for businesses that have small marketing budgets. They're not yet ready for full-on professional digital marketing help because they just don't have the budget for that. They maybe want some help tightening up proposition, smoothing off some of the edges, getting the website ready and that type of thing, but they have proof of concept that what they do is good. Now, preparing for digital marketing costs less than £1,000 a month. Depending on the sort of level of support that you need, there are different options available. So that's the first thing that we do. That's a consultancy service where we take one of our experienced project managers from Exposure Ninja that's worked on some really high growth, amazing campaigns for our clients, and they help you get stuff in place so that you're ready for that professional help. The next level is LeadCat. So LeadCat is Exposure Ninja's sister digital marketing agency. We started a no-frills, low-cost digital marketing service because we didn't see anything out there that wasn't a scam, essentially, at the low end of the price range for digital marketing. So we started something ourselves. And what we did is we took the knowledge and the learning from what made the most successful digital marketing campaigns at Exposure Ninja, and we shrunk them down. We removed some of the unnecessary stuff. We removed some of the day-to-day client contact. We made the reporting a lot more simple. And we took away some of the more high-touch services to offer the basics to get business started. Even so, LeadCat is for businesses that have some kind of proof of concept. And ideally, you would have started to generate some sales through the website, or you would have enough budget that you could spend 3 months of marketing without being like, oh my God, we need to absolutely be driving loads and loads of sales immediately because the business is, going out of business without that. Okay, so you need to be past that stage for professional help. LeadCat is the first stage for getting started very, very early on. Then we have Exposure Ninja. Exposure Ninja is for established businesses or funded startups that are looking to scale with the best help available. Exposure Ninja is full scope digital marketing. So we have services across email marketing, SEO, content marketing, pay-per-click ads on Google, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of the different paid social channels. We have content writing and content marketing. We have website development. We have landing page and funnel design. We have digital marketing consultancy and strategy. So lots of different strands within Exposure Ninja, but it's full service and it's all guided by an experienced project manager that is absolutely committed and dedicated to your target goals for the next 12 months, which are usually a combination of revenue through digital marketing and some kind of acquisition on the website. So number of leads, number of sales, and everything that we do is guided by those goals and those targets. We break those 12-month goals down into 3-month milestones, and we set out a plan every quarter to get to those 3-month milestones for the business growth. And then we define the work that we do about delivering those goals. So we work within all of these different services to do whatever it takes to get to those milestone targets. Fantastic service. We believe it's the best digital marketing agency for SMEs anywhere on the planet, and we're absolutely relentless about always making it better. But it's not for businesses that are at the very early stages if they haven't yet found that proof of concept. You need to get proof of concept first. Then preparing for digital marketing and LeadCat are a good kind of way of working into Exposure Ninja. Exposure Ninja is great for any business that has the marketing budget for it, and it's the best option by a mile. But we appreciate that it's not for everyone. So I hope this hasn't been I hope it's been a reality check for people that needed a reality check. I hope it's been useful. I hope it's valuable. And I hope over the long term of your business, I hope it's extremely important. Don't forget, of course, you can request the free marketing review at Exposure Ninja. Let us know that you've got marketing budget and that you've got proof of concept for the company, and we'll be happy to carry out the marketing review for you, and obviously give you some suggestions on how to scale it to the next level. We just like to make sure that proof of concept is there first, because that is absolutely fundamental, and we don't want your business to run out of oxygen before it's got space to grow. So thank you so much for checking this out. If you want some help growing your business through a DIY approach, then we share everything that we learn on YouTube and through our email marketing as well. So sign up for the Exposure Ninja Dojo on our website, and also follow us on YouTube, where we share loads and loads of videos every week showing you how to do this stuff to grow your business. So I hope this has been useful, and I look forward to seeing you soon.